football podcast, joined as always by a liquored up Clinton Boring. My name is Ryan Sadkowiak. Clinton, tell the people how you're doing tonight.
I'm doing pretty good. Here's the rest of my Penn's alcoholic slushy from my daddy day out. I had the day off today, so I had pizza 2 different times. Both were, kind of middle of the road. One was wood-fired, pretty solid. However, the pizza did not support the topping, so that's a disappointment. And then had Enrico's here in Dublin. Solid pie for a local place, but nothing special. But yeah, this Penn's drink, if anyone's ever been to Penn's, I played some pinball, played some different arcade games, but my slushy melted, and now it's just, you guys can't see this, but it's just alcohol, and it's pretty tasty. It's rum. So I might feel pretty good as we go through this podcast.
But did you do duck pin bowling?
No, because you have to pay for that.
Oh.
I played the free stuff, man. Other than pinball. Pinball cost $1 for 3 balls, but I did set the high score in pinball, and I had set the high score on Frogger today, so I was balling out.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
It's going to be 32 Monday, and I still got it. Speaking of video games, real quick, I called out Ari Wasserman today because he's been talking that he wants to challenge people online, and I said, dude, I'll come at you. We'll play on NCAA football. I will challenge you online, and we'll make a friendly wager on it. And my wager was going to be that if I beat him, or when I beat him, he has to come on our show. But he hasn't got back to me yet, so we'll work on that.
Oh, is he scared?
I think he is. I told him about how many top-ranked Madden people I beat. He was a little bit hesitant. It's okay to be afraid, Ari.
Are we going to have to clip this and, auditorily at him instead of just textually?
Yeah, here it is.
Did I just make up
Ari
2
Wasserman,
words?
I'm sending a challenge to you for NCAA football, new video game. A friendly wager. If I beat you, you get to come on our show, and then you can decide what I owe you if you beat me. But I would love to put your undefeated streak. I would love to end that. So we'll clip this and we'll tag you in it. But it would be certainly fun to have a head-to-head game with you.
I like how you say you get to come on our show as if it's a beautiful privilege to be on this, share this internet space with us.
They should be. We're 2 special individuals.
Yeah.
Maybe extra special in a different way, but
yeah. I had a lot of coffee today, and then I had Diet Dr. Pepper right at lunchtime, so I was feeling pretty special this afternoon. I was all jacked up on caffeine. I'm jumping around the clinic, making weird noises out of my mouth, and my patients are looking at me like, "What is wrong with you?" I'm like, "Listen, there's not enough hours in the day to get into that conversation."
Yep.
I liked your Thirsty Thursday idea. I completely forgot about it, and I have some beer in the fridge, and I just opened another fizzy water, and I'm all
right. So you want fizzy water? That's okay.
Yeah, Well, here we can add this free advertisement. Liquid Death, you're welcome. I spend way too much money on your water. I'm gonna drink a lot of alcohol this weekend, though. Steve's getting married, so I can't do beer tonight. I need to, or maybe I should.
The one from the bachelor party. So
yes, this is Rutgers Steve. Shout out Rutgers Steve. We're gonna have a blast this weekend. Maybe I should prep my liver and just not go in cold. But anyway,
I don't want to hear about your bowel movements for the next 7 days after this again.
Oh, buddy,
so don't go that hard.
Listen, this is a safe for work podcast, even though I've dropped probably 3 too many F-bombs on it. We're not going to go there today. Okay. Where we are going to go, though, is a little discussion about college football rivalries, and this is kind of topical. I think we had this is Clinton's baby, so I'm going to let him cook today with kind of this, but he had kind of planned this out before Colin Cowherd did whatever the hell it was that he was doing the other day, talking about how USC needed to drop Notre Dame I didn't listen to it. I didn't want to dignify it with a click. So if you want to give me the gist here in a second, you can absolutely do that. But before we kind of get into this little meat of the episode today, just a reminder for you, we are live once again on YouTube tonight. You can find us there at ITPCFB. We're generally going to go live for each of these episodes, and the time's always going to vary. We're not as predictable as we kind of thought we were going to be, but we'll put those out on Twitter before we do go, and you can find us on Twitter as well, in addition to Instagram at ITPCFB. Give us a follow there. That's where you can interact with us, see our content, and we got a lot of Twitter feedback for some of these rivalries we're going to talk about tonight. So if you want your voice heard on the show, find us there. We are absolutely willing and wanting to hear your voice. If you are not an individual who enjoys listening to us live, you'd rather catch us in the morning on your commute while you're sitting at your desk, what have you, You can find us on Apple or Spotify or wherever else you get your podcasts, and we are at Inside the Pylon there. So, Clinton, let's get into it tonight. We are going to kind of start. When we call it the Rivalry series, we're leading up to the big one next week, and I think we kind of alluded to it on Monday. There's not going to be any Ohio State-Michigan talk tonight because we're saving that one for next week. This is the appetizer, the precursor, the mozzarella sticks to the main course, if you will.
Damn, mozzarella sticks are good. This better be a good appetizer if you're calling this mozzarella sticks. We have some marinara sauce too, or are we going plain?
Nah, I'm more like a pure pizza sauce kind of guy. Like any of you,
fine.
Well, I don't remember if Roosters has the same sauce, but any of you Northwest Ohio folks who've had Frickers before, they have the best pizza sauce for their mozzarella sticks. Oh my God. I kind of am craving it now that I'm thinking about it. It's really good. It is really, really good. But I can go either way, man. I can go marinara or I could go Southwest Ranch. Either is very good.
I don't know if I've ever done a mozzarella stick with ranch, but I might have to give that a shot.
No. Southwest Ranch.
Okay, that's fair.
Spicy ranch. Fair. Okay. I mean, I've had regular ranch, but I don't discriminate on dipping sauces. I will have any of them.
No.
Did you listen to the Cowherd video, or were you like me and you're like, I just don't want any of this in my brain waves at all?
I did not click it.
Okay, cool.
Because it's stupid.
Cool. Excellent. Well, then we're not going to talk about that at all tonight. So why don't we kick this off, Clinton? Why don't you kind of talk to us about your inspiration behind this idea and where you want to kind of take this conversation tonight?
Well, before we dive into that, I had two things. I wanted to say thanks to everyone who voted on our poll for the Big Ten coach. We got 16 votes. I was afraid we were going to get like one, but we got over 300 views of the poll. So if we continue to get really good engagement or an even better engagement, in the future with those polls, we'll keep putting those up, guys. Like we want as much engagement with the fans as we can get. It makes it really fun. Even if you vote in the poll, you can leave a comment. My buddy Kyle dropped a comment in there that we really appreciate that. Ryan Day did win the poll. I believe Dan Lanning was second, and then Lincoln Riley was third. But
no one said other.
Kyle, my buddy Kyle had a good idea. You know what we'll do is maybe end of season, we'll drop maybe the same poll again and see how people think. And then we can drop it next summer again and see how people are feeling there. When everything's all said and done, you kind of get through spring again, and we can, keep track of those results. Number 2, sidetrack before we start. At work the other day, I don't know how the heck we got on this subject, but we got on the topic of Pop-Tarts, and I wanted to go over this real quick.
Oh boy.
Everybody, there's the new movie Unfrosted out on Netflix, which is about the arms race that was between Post and Kellogg's for who was going to develop the Pop-Tart. Clearly Kellogg's won.
What?
Because they are Kellogg's Pop-Tarts. But this movie is pretty solid. They've got some good actresses and actors in this movie. Jim Gaffigan.
Wait. It's an actual Hollywood movie and it's not like a documentary.
Yeah. It's just like a silly comedy that is very lighthearted. It's goofy, it's stupid, but it's a fun watch for like an hour and 20 minutes. It's a solid movie. Very solid. I would not be rating it like 10 out of 10, but I don't work for IMDb. But it was just a solid, fun watch. I enjoyed it, and I grew up and I liked Pop-Tarts. Anyways, I just wanted to ask you, Ryan, because this was our question. What's your favorite flavor of Pop-Tarts?
Stop. Don't make me do this. Oh. I have like 6 different answers for this question. And I swear to God that this is the first time that I've heard this question. I did not like prep this out. So I have a soft spot in my heart for, I think it was the wild berry, just because I loved that design. The purple and the light blue, it just spoke to me as a child. I think if we're going like all time, no doubt about it, favorite, it's got to be the brown sugar cinnamon. Like that one's goated. That one's goated for sure.
Absolutely.
If we're talking about like some of the newer special edition flavors, I don't even know if we can call them newer anymore, because I honestly could not tell you the last time. Well, I could tell you the last time I had a Pop-Tart. It was probably like 2018. It was during, I don't remember if it was either the NFL playoffs or late season college football, or maybe it was the college football playoff. Pop-Tart commercial came on. I'm like, damn, those sound really good right now. I kind of want Pop-Tarts. So I went and bought some strawberry Pop-Tarts and I ate them all.
Okay.
Prior to that, though, I don't think I had a Pop-Tart since like grade school.
Nice.
But around though, like the newer flavors were coming out. So like the cookie dough was really good. A toasted s'mores one, man, that one's hard to beat. That's hard to beat. But man, you could flip a coin for me between like the brown sugar cinnamon and the strawberry. Those were both really good, but I still have that soft spot in my heart for that wild berry purple.
Yeah, I think wild berry was very popular when you and I were kids.
Mm-hmm. That was one of the first ones, I feel like.
Yeah, it appealed really well to like the eye. And I think wild berry, because a patient and I were talking, my patient's like 70. He said his favorite flavor was raspberry. I think wild berry replaced raspberry because the initials were strawberry, blueberry, and brown sugar cinnamon, but they were all unfrosted, hence the movie.
Oh, yeah. No.
And then they brought in frosting later. I'm purely a frosted guy. My all-time favorite's brown sugar cinnamon.
Yes.
However, I was a sucker for the cookie dough, and man, back.
Oh, yeah.
And they got rid of it, and I was ready to choke somebody. I was like, this is BS. Not that I eat Pop-Tarts. I had one like 3 weeks ago, and that's the first Pop-Tart I've had, and I couldn't tell you how long. They're a waste of calories, but damn, they're good.
True. Okay, here we go. So if you go on Amazon for $65, you can get Pop-Tarts Frosted Toaster Pastry Ultimate Variety Pack. It's a 10-pack. It's 8 pastries per box, so 80 Pop-Tarts. It has cookies and cream, wild berry, chocolate fudge, hot fudge sundae, brown sugar cinnamon, frosted raspberry, frosted blueberry, frosted cherry, frosted s'mores, and frosted confetti cupcake.
Okay. Respect.
That's
I'm
a
not
lot
spending
of
that.
I mean, you get, I don't even know how much Pop-Tarts are now these days, but like you get 10 boxes for $65, you get $6.50 a box. I mean, that probably sounds right. Yeah. I don't know. But again,
today's prices, yeah.
Again, I'm not that sounds like one of those things that I would enjoy for like half a second, and then it would be like, what the hell am I going to do with these 10 boxes of Pop-Tarts that are now taking up half my pantry?
Yep. The good thing is there's so much preservatives in it. You could put them in your bomb shelter and eat them 50 years from now and still taste the same.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe
my last piece on the Pop-Tart thing is I did not have a toasted Pop-Tart, I believe, until I met my wife, which was in 2014. I always ate them just straight out the pack. And then she said, you got to put them in the toaster. And I was like, hot damn, this is, I have to say appropriate words on this podcast, a rush of flavor in my mouth.
It's an explosion of flavor. I feel like the brown, there was like the fruit ones. I don't think I ever toasted those. I definitely ate those. I just kind of ate those raw out of the package. It was still good. The brown sugar cinnamon one, definitely a little better toasted. I can't, the s'mores one's untoasted. No, you got to get that chocolate melted.
Okay. Yeah. Ryan's out here raw dogging the fruit ones.
I was,
heating up everything.
Accurate.
It up.
Accurate.
All right. Let's venture off of Pop-Tarts here. So you asked me, what was the inspiration? Oh, go ahead.
I didn't think that was how we were going to spend the first 15 minutes of this podcast.
That's
but I'm glad we did. I'm glad we did.
Yeah, it's fun. Got to get people to get to know us. For the listeners, we're personable. We like to have good chats. I have a bunch of random crap I like to talk about.
If you're thinking right now, am I listening to two man babies talk about college football? Yes, you 100% are.
Absolutely. 32, but I'm forever young. So you asked my inspiration, motivation to do. Mm-hmm. So as an Ohio State fan, obviously the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry has been very big to me my entire life, which really drives up the importance to me overall of just rivalries in general. I love them in all sports, but especially college football. I think rivalries in college football is just another piece of what makes this special. And for like crazy addicts like you and I and Ari and Ty and Dan and anybody else who lives this crazy sport 365 days a year, it makes it that much more special. And there are so many different and fun rivalries. I've always enjoyed the trophies. The previous NCAA football games really piqued my interest. And they used to have the trophy case in it. Mm-hmm. And if you won that rivalry game, you would put the trophy case for the rivalry in your trophy in the trophy case. So I never completed Excuse me. Good Lord. The alcohol is causing some fluctuation here. Anyways, that really made it fun. So it really interested me to learn a little more as a young kid about these rivalries. So I thought, we want some fun summer stuff to do. Let's dive in a little bit about some of the Big Ten rivalries we have. Now, we did center our focus around the Big Ten rivalries that the Big Ten kept. Okay, so if there's some other ones on here we don't mention for your fan base, like Ohio State and the Illabuck, not on there because that wasn't a protected game. We talked about the protected games here. So I wanted to dive in because my co-host is a huge Notre Dame fan. We've had really good engagement thus far with Notre Dame fans and, to an extent, USC fans. So the first segment, I wanted to kick this off, no pun intended there, with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish and the USC Trojan rivalry. Now, Ryan, can you help me pronounce, what's the name of the trophy? How do you say that?
The Jeweled Shillelagh.
Shillelagh. Okay, that's what I thought. I remember from WWE wrestling, the little Irish guy used to hit people with the shillelagh on there, and I thought that's what it was. So they play for the Joel Shillelagh. The trophy's been awarded since 1952, and it is considered one of the most iconic trophies in all of college sports. I'm going to take you guys back. We're going to hop in the Wayback Time machine here. The USC Notre Dame rivalry began in 1926. When Knute Rockne, did I pronounce that correct, Ryan?
You got it.
All right. And the Irish hopped on a train and rode that sucker all the way to Los Angeles to take on the mighty Trojans of USC. This was, of course, the last game of the season. It was a hard-fought battle. Notre Dame came out victorious, 13-12. What a banger of offense, folks. Which is a stark contrast in scoring from our most recent meeting, where again, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish were victorious, 48-20 in last year's game. As we check in at the all-time series record, Notre Dame also leads this, 50 wins, 38 losses, and 5 ties. This includes vacated wins by both programs. Now,
yeah, we're just counting vacated wins now because the NCAA is toothless, so we're not.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just no.
You absolutely should. Ohio State beat Arkansas in the Sugar Bowl too. It all happened. We watched it.
Hey, can we? Can I tell you a fun fact about how this started before we get into the
Go right ahead.
Stuff?
Absolutely.
I am pretty sure that I heard this at one point in time, but there is also a brief chance that I'm making this up. I'm pretty sure that this rivalry started because Rockne's wife wanted to end the football season in LA.
That I did not read today.
And that is how one of the best rivalries in college football history started, is a gal just wanted to spend some time in the sun.
Yeah. Get her bikini on. Well, they were one pieces back in those days. Couldn't show too much skin. But I did read there was something about how Rockne had some ties to maybe becoming the USC head coach. And then obviously ended up with Notre Dame. And I think that was another piece that kind of sparked some intrigue with this rivalry. Speaking of Rockne, man, I'm going to probably botch this guy's name too. Is it Lehigh? Is that how you say the next coach's name?
Frank Leahy?
Leahy. There we go. So Notre Dame dominated very early under Rockne and Leahy. However, then USC took control from the mid-60s. They won 12 of the next 16 games, and within that, there were 2 ties. The only 2 Notre Dame wins were the years they won the national championship. And if I did my research right, that was 1973 and 1977. Notre Dame then took back control under Faustin Holtz, winning 11 straight, leading us to Ryan's favorite time of the rivalry, enter Pete Carroll, and the domination. It was the USC Trojans over the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and Ryan got to suffer through years of Tyrone Willingham and Charlie Weiss.
Bro, that was a bad time in my life. That was a bad time in my life.
Well, this is perfect because I have a question here.
All right.
Can you describe to us non-Notre Dame fans, Ryan, what those Willingham and Weiss years were like?
See, this is so hard for me because, I am from the era that was, right after Notre Dame was really good. So I was born in 91. Why is my Gmail doing this? My computer's having a meltdown right now. So if I get disconnected at any point today, Clinton, that's why.
I'll just keep talking. It's okay.
So it wasn't the first Notre Dame game that I went to. Because I think I went to one when I was like 6 months old. Obviously, don't have any recollection of that.
Are you sure?
For obvious reasons, I did not have a fully formed prefrontal cortex yet. And then we went, I think they played Michigan State in 98, maybe. That's the first one that I kind of vaguely remember, but I don't really remember. I just remember kind of sort of being there. The first Notre Dame game that I consciously remember going to was at the Coliseum 2002. So this would have been the first Willingham year when they started. I don't remember if it was 6-0 or 7-0. They beat Florida State. Everyone's going nuts. Like, you got all these Sports Illustrated covers coming out, like, return to glory. Is Notre Dame back? Wow, look at the Irish. They're good for the first time in 15 years. Or I guess it only would have been 9 years at that point because they were pretty good in the early 90s. But then they lose somehow inexplicably to Boston College. They end up rebounding, and I don't remember what USC's record was. They might have both been 9-1 or 10-1 going into that game because I think they only played 11 games at the time. But they're both top 10 teams. That was Carson Palmer, USC, the year he won the Heisman. Mm-hmm. This would have been Carlisle Holiday for Notre Dame. There's a name that I didn't think was going to come up on the podcast today. But a really good Notre Dame defense, and Carson Palmer just eviscerated them. We were literally sitting in the last row behind one of the end zones. You could see the parking lot better than you could see the field. And it didn't really matter because we didn't miss a whole lot because it was just a bunch of red dots running around getting chased by white dots the whole game. We left like early in the third quarter, and because it was like 35-7 or something at this point, and my dad was pissed and was like, "We're going home." I'm like, "That's fine." And someone had parked their car in front of the entrance to the parking lot, so no one could get out of the parking lot. And a bunch of grown men were trying to move this car. It was remarkable.
Wow.
And let's just say the Coliseum is not necessarily in the best area of LA, so that was a little nerve-wracking. Particularly, I don't know. I'm not going to comment on what it is now because I haven't been back there in 20 years, but at the time it was not. So that was my first Notre Dame USC experience. And then, as you alluded to, I don't think Notre Dame won that game until Brian Kelly's first year in 2010, probably. Yeah, because they didn't win. Because I went to the game in 2009 with my uncle when it was at Notre Dame Stadium, when it would have been Jimmy Clausen, Golden Tate. Mm-hmm. I think Michael Floyd was hurt for that game, and it came down to like Notre Dame had like a 4th and goal late to either tie or go ahead, and Jimmy Clausen tried to throw to like Duval Kamara or something like that, and obviously that went very poorly. So those kind of like in between years, it was just like probably how Michigan fans felt trying to beat Ohio State. It's just like it had this feeling of like, are we ever going to beat these guys? Because that was, I mean, the older Notre Dame and older USC fans, and by older, I mean like our age, like, you know, late 20s, early 30s, mid 30s, and later would know what that was like. USC was like the team then. Like they were Bama before Bama, Georgia before Georgia. Like that was the big bad every year. So they only got like one or two national titles out of it, I think. I can't even remember because it was 04.
Yeah.
Did they win it?
No.
Did they win in 03?
Leinart didn't get one, did he? Because they went against Vince Young and they lost. That was 05.
Yep, 05 they lost. And then they never went back after that to the national title game.
Because 06 was Urban in Florida.
Yep. And then the year after that was LSU. And then the year after that was when Bama started.
Let me see. I'll get you an info real quick. Yeah, and when did Carroll leave? When did Pete Carroll leave?
He was like 08, I think.
So they got 03 and 04, went back to
That's right. That's what I thought.
But they have 11 total, but you know, a lot of them was 1970 and before.
Oh, sure. So. And yeah, the one like the 80s and before was weird how because you got like people voting on it and stuff. So that you got like whatever. That's neither here nor there.
BS.
But yeah, man, that was just like that entire, and that was like right, like 2002 was the first year that I like really started following college football. Like I think I'd probably had like a couple of games like intermittently that I would watch before then, but I was 10, so it's like how much are you cognitively processing at that point? So that 2002 Notre Dame team was the first year I really started following college football. So you got to sit there and think, you know, the first 8 years that I watched college football, my like adolescent teenage years were filled with Notre Dame losing to USC. Yeah. I would have been 19 the first time that Notre Dame beat USC. So yeah, man, there was this sense of inevitability that you're playing USC. They're one of the best teams in the country, and you suck, and you're just not going to beat them. That was my early experience with this rivalry.
Well, I think
desperation and despair.
Yeah, you're right on though with your Michigan comparison. And again, unless you're a Michigan fan who just joined and started following in 2021, the Michigan fans know what I'm talking about. It was a long time of suffering with Ohio State, and again, we'll cover that into Monday. But I like the comparison there. I think it was a very good comparison. I lose my mind there when I was just trying to think, like, did I watch many Notre Dame games growing up? And I don't feel like I did, because first of all, I hated USC because I think they nipped Ohio State twice, both in Southern Cal and in Columbus. That might have been just Southern Cal, but I remember Tressel took them out there and they lost. And then Texas, I think USC got them twice and they split Texas. Texas got them in Columbus and then they beat them in Austin. But anyways, so I hated USC because, all natural, I hate big cities that teams are in. And if they just continue to dominate, I always grew to hate them. So I just didn't follow as much. And I remember Notre Dame, and they still are, was always the team on NBC. Mm-hmm. So I would tune in and watch them on occasion, but I didn't know as much. Like I remember Jimmy Clausen, Jeff Samardzija, a lot of different names there. I remember Jerome Bettis was Notre Dame and all those things, but nothing that sticks out into my head so much. This is why I'm very happy that you're on the show with me, because you can fill in all these blanks. So we get through the Pete Carroll era, enter Brian Kelly, who dumps Cincinnati like a bad habit to come to Notre Dame. I believe Cincinnati got waylaid in the bowl game that he took them to against Florida that year. He got absolutely dismantled. And then he goes to Notre Dame.
You mean Brian Kelly inexplicably leading teams before a bowl game?
I know, right?
Sensing a trend here.
Yeah. So he went 8-3. So he at least had the Irish above 500, got some nice wins. And then enter Marcus Freeman and Lincoln Riley. And if I have this correct, they stand at 1-1, right? They've each won one. They're in year 3 for both.
Correct.
In their conference.
Yes.
So maybe we have a fun little thing building here. Like the comparison people always want to use for like Ohio State, Michigan is Woody and Bo. I don't know what that comparison would be per se for USC Notre Dame, but maybe we have that type of thing maybe brewing here. If Riley's not going to go anywhere, if he doesn't get scared of the Big Ten, and Marcus Freeman continues to make good strides, we might get to see a 10-year war or plus for these guys. This could be a really good battle between these coaches.
Yes, we've never, well, at least I've never experienced a Notre Dame USC rivalry that's had two good coaches at the same time, because there was no Pete Carroll and Brian Kelly overlap. That was all Sark, Kiffin to Clay Helton. I almost call him Todd Helton. Colorado Rockies, let's go.
That's right. Clay Helton wasn't that important.
No. So there's just never been that overlap. So it's like, USC beat the pants off of Notre Dame early in the decade, but you also had, there were some good-ish Notre Dame teams in there, but just never anything long-lasting. And the coaching in that era was just not particularly good, to be polite about it. And then same thing with, Notre Dame gets some stability with Brian Kelly. Pete Carroll bolts for the NFL before sanctions come crashing down on the program. He leaves USC in kind of a rough state with that, and they're just never able to kind of get out of that shadow. There's some, no, there's, you got some good years in there. I think, Clay Helton took him to a Rose Bowl one year. I can't remember the early 2000 or the early 2010s, what those Sark and Kiffin teams were like, but I remember the 20,
they were that good.
Well, cause I remember This is like a formative college football memory for me. I remember after the 2011 season, I think the preseason magazine, like one of the preseason magazines, I don't remember if it was Athlon or Sports Illustrated. It was about Matt Barkley coming back for his senior year, which would have been the 2012 season. It was like Matt Barkley is back, and he didn't come back to play in the Sun Bowl again. I'm like, no, he came back to play for a 6-6 team, and like they were supposed to be good that year, and they were not. And I remember like going into that last game because that was the most nervous I'd ever been as a college football fan, because that was 11-0, a USC team that Barkley was hurt, so they were playing Max Wittick at quarterback, and it was a Notre Dame team that I think I don't remember who I think Sampson was interviewing Chuck Martin. He was the offensive coordinator that year. He was I don't remember if he was the OC that year, if he was one of the position coaches, but the Miami University, head coach Chuck Martin was an assistant on that Notre Dame team. And one of the stories that Pete Sampson of The Athletic likes to tell is like just talking to Chuck Martin is he'd say that they were closer to 3-9 that year than they were to actually beating Bama for the national title. It was a weird Notre Dame team that was really good on defense. They had some incredible defensive players, but their offense was not good for most of the year. And they got really, really lucky in a couple of different spots. So like it's coming in, like the point of me telling that story is like, we're not talking about this like inevitable world beating Notre Dame team going into that last game of the year. So like nerves are high. Like, man, I could see them blowing this because all they've ever done my entire life is blow it. And it was a close game the entire time. And I think they had I don't remember what the score was, but they had late in the fourth quarter another just absolutely unbelievable goal line stand where I think they had USC had 6 or 7 plays within the 5-yard line because of a couple of PI penalties, and they did not score, and it iced the game. So yeah, it's I don't remember where I was going with that, but I think that was just kind of illustrating that these two, like, up until, I mean, hell, even Freeman's first year when USC was really good, Notre Dame was still 8-3 going into that game. They were not particularly great. That was, Stanford Marshall losses. And then last year I don't remember what Notre Dame was ranked going into that game, but I mean, they had just lost to Louisville. The fan base was on a hair trigger because they looked like garbage the 2 weeks before. And we're sitting there, USC's looking very House of Cardsy coming into this, but they were still 6-0 in top 5 in the country. And everyone's like, Jesus Christ, is Notre Dame going to lose this and fall to 4-3? Yeah. And then we all know how that game went.
Shellacked them.
Yes, I think
it was a beautiful thing to see.
I think Caleb Williams might still have some nightmares about Xavier Watts after that game, and then both teams go, not that it saved Notre Dame's season, because then a couple weeks later they came out and laid an egg against Clemson. But then USC completely falls off a cliff and they finish 7-6 or 8-6 or whatever they finished last year. So it's been there were a couple of teams like in the mid, like maybe 2015. I think USC might have had a pretty decent team, and that was a year Notre Dame went to the Fiesta Bowl. So there's been a couple of years where they've both been good at the same time, but it's never been like this consistent, like those Ohio State, Michigan slobber knockers of the late Meyer, early Harbaugh eras, where even though Michigan wasn't winning, they were both highly ranked teams consistently.
Yep.
So hopefully we get back to that here. It wouldn't be good for my blood pressure, but it'd be good for the sport.
So kind of playing off some of the talk of your own memories, and then the question that we shared on our Twitter with our Trojan and Irish fan bases. Ryan, I would like 1 or 2. Let's go 2, if you can pop them off, of your best and worst memories of this rivalry.
You know what the worst one is. It was everyone. It was everyone's worst one. I think the Bush Push game was the last time I cried about a football game. I had to go put on a happy face after that and go to our school's Halloween festival after that, and I was just in pieces in bed, just like completely crushed, like completely soul crushed. Like that was my first heartbreak in my life, was that game. Because it wasn't even just that it happened the way that it happened on that last play. It was the lead up to it too. So you get, and I think Ty even said this same thing. USC is deep in their own territory. It's like 4th and 9 from their own 23 or something like that. And Matt Leinart throws a ball that the path that it took was literally like there was a 1 in 100 chance that this ball gets completed. And the one chance just happened to play out on this play where it was Ambrose Wooden, who was a bad cornerback for almost his entire Notre Dame career, had Dwayne Jarrett guarded perfectly. But this ball just skims the hair on his arm and finds the hole. And then he can't tackle Dwayne Jarrett, who then proceeds to run for 65 yards to set up the 1st and goal. So you already have that. So you're already like, Jesus Christ, here we go again. Mm-hmm. And then you get the play right before the Bush push where Leinart's trying to scramble and he loses the ball and it goes out of bounds, but they didn't stop the clock. So the clock runs out and I'm sitting there watching this game and all I see is 4 zeros and I'm losing my shit, jumping on the furniture. I was home alone, thank God, at this point. But I'm screaming, running around my house, and everyone thought the game was over. The crowd rushed the field. They had to get them off the field after this. And then they come back on the field and then that happens. And it was just quite literally going from the highest of possible highs to the lowest of lows within 15 seconds.
Yeah.
So that's number one. That's okay. That's number one sports heartbreak of all time for me. I don't think that's ever going to be topped. I don't want to say that. I don't want that to ever be topped because if it ever gets topped, I think I might stop watching sports. I gotta think. I don't know if I have a really bad one other than that. There's really nothing else that jumps out to me because just most of the other
that one pretty much takes the cake. I remember watching that game and I felt Notre Dame pain in that game. And I'm not even a Notre Dame fan.
Because that's just such a I talked a couple times about just weird college football alternate histories, but if they win that game, I don't know if they play for the national title because I don't remember how the rest of the season ended up playing out. But I mean, they didn't lose again in the regular season, so I don't know if a win over that USC team, and they lost, I think, 2 weeks before to a Michigan State team that was decent. I don't think they were fantastic or anything, but I don't know if that would have been enough to get them to number 2 in the BCS against Texas, but there's no way that they were beating that Texas team. So maybe not the greatest what if in my personal fanhood history, but it'd be an interesting one for sure. As far as favorite memories, the 2012 game sticks out. That was just a cathartic experience for myself. Just thinking for a brief moment in time, holy shit, we're playing for a national title. Maybe we can actually win it. And then 6 weeks later happened, and that was that. The 2015 game was a fun one because that was a really good Notre Dame team, and I think it was a pretty decent USC team. That might have been a Sam Darnold USC team, and the play that I'll always remember from that is Adoree Jackson lining up from Will Fuller, and they dap each other up before the play, and then Will Fuller just absolutely lights his ass on fire with a go route and scorches him. That was fun.
Will Fuller.
I enjoyed that. And I mean, last year's game was great. It was just fantastic, just because of kind of how my personal mood was going into that game, coming off of because that was the 4th of 4 games that were played against ranked teams in prime time for Notre Dame without any breaks in the schedule. So I was personally exhausted. You mean I got to sit here all day and wait for these clowns to play a football game again? So it was coming off of the Ohio State game, which we all know how that one ended. And then the Duke game, which they probably should have lost and won in the most exhilarating fashion possible. Well, not possible, but it was still a pretty exhilarating finish. And then the week before that, they just absolutely got clowned by Louisville. So it was a really rough month of football for me personally. So to kind of come out and, the offense played like garbage again, so that wasn't fantastic. But to just lay the lumber like that and to avenge the previous year's game was pretty sweet and cathartic too.
Well, I have an 05 update for you here. Notre Dame finished 9-3. Outside of Texas and USC, Penn State would have been the next representative. It would have been Penn State, Texas. Penn State went 11-1 that year.
Okay, so
and then
what was Penn State's one loss? Because Notre Dame's third loss was in the Fiesta Bowl.
Okay, so there
another game that I remember because I went to that game. I had a beer spilled on me by a couple of co-eds.
Oh gosh,
I was 14 at the time.
They look like they lost whatever October 16th game was.
No, okay.
And that's
so essentially it would have been a one-loss Notre Dame against a one-loss Penn State in the BCS standings.
Yeah. And then West Virginia was also one loss.
Oh, those were the good West Virginia teams too.
Mm-hmm.
That was Pat White, Steve Slayton.
Hey, shout out the Virginia Tech Hokies. You guys were 11-2 that year. Wow, it's been an eternity since you've been good.
Oh, Kirk's not going to be happy with you on that one.
Sorry, Kirk. I love you, but
poor Kirk is just out here catching strays on a Notre Dame USC episode. My poor guy, dude. That's messed up. Shoot, that's funny.
Thanks for being an avid listener.
Okay, so what you're saying is there was a chance. All right, that's what I'm choosing to take from this. Not definitive, but at least it's not a crazy thought in my brain.
Yeah. So I wanted to share then, since you had those, the some of the Twitter responses we had, and then we can tag these guys tomorrow and thank them. Ty Holdenbrandt, as you mentioned, our guy Ty. Thanks again for answering this, Ty. He was in attendance for the Notre Dame USC game.
Oh, no.
He said the Bush push got all the press, but the true dagger, as Ryan mentioned, was the fourth down conversion from Leinart to Dwayne Jarrett down the left sideline. That play absolutely cut my heart out. We're sorry, Ty. That had to be tough. Again, as I said, I'm not even a Notre Dame fan, and that was tough for me to watch. Trojan Horse, our USC fan, says worst memory was the most recent loss to Notre Dame. So I don't know if he's a newer fan, or I should say if they're a newer fan, or that one just, you came, like you said, it was a joy for you because the way it went the year before, maybe they were expecting the same thing. But beating Notre Dame the year before was ironic, given that both of those games were both Caleb's best and worst games of his college football career. The best memory is still the Bush push. An avid fan and really nice guy on Twitter, Notre Dame fan Jake Ryan 2112. You guys should check him out. Super polite guy, upbeat about Notre Dame. He's pretty good follow. He says his favorite memory was seeing the Notre Dame defense shut Caleb Williams down last year. And his worst memory was the entire Charlie Weiss era, because that is the time frame he became a Notre Dame fan, and USC just had their number.
No, that's so funny. That's so true, though, man. Especially that
2000 to walk in.
Oh, that 2006, in that entire 2006 season, I would erase from my memory forever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because that was they're going to be good this year. They were on all the covers, and I'm telling the whole world that my firstborn child's name is going to be Brady because of Brady Quinn. And then they just got their pants beat by the only three good teams they played that year.
Hey, Brady does a really nice job on the Fox pregame show. Okay, He does a really great job there. I don't want to talk about his pro career or his matchups against the Ohio State University.
Listen. No one was winning with that era of the Browns.
You know who was winning? AJ Hawk, because he got Laura Quinn. I guess if people found Laura Quinn attractive, which I did not. But I love that split jersey in the Fiesta Bowl that she had. That was pretty gnarly. That was ahead of the times there.
I did not realize Brady Quinn had two sisters. Because one of them married Jack Johnson, the hockey player, not the banana pancakes guy. And I saw that, I don't remember. This was a while ago now. This might have been 10 years ago. I saw Brady Quinn's sister married Jack Johnson. I'm like, wait, wasn't she dating AJ Hawk? And then I found out that he had two sisters. So what a family. You got an NFL quarterback and then two daughters, both married to professional athletes.
Yeah, pretty awesome.
And then
pretty awesome.
Jack Johnson's parents stole all of his money, but that's this podcast for another day.
And then the last comment, at least that I checked that we had seen, was at True Sophomore. He said the worst game was the 05 game, but again reiterates Bush push wasn't the worst part. It was the Ambrose Wooden giving up the 4th and 11, or I thought you said it was longer than that. Anyways, 4th and long.
It was
to Dwayne Jarrett. He said that's when the game was lost. He knew it right away that they were going to lose that game, and he did not give a best memory there. So then my next part that I thought would be fun for you, Ryan, we're going to travel down memory lane again. So it cannot be this season. And I guess it could be last year, but let's try to get a little further than that.
Okay.
Who is one player from USC's past that you would have liked to have had on the Notre Dame team for some of these rivalry games?
Do you mean like within the same season?
Yeah, like you wouldn't want to put them on this season's team, but like at the time frame, who would you have liked to move to a Notre Dame team?
I feel like the easy answer is 2005 Reggie Bush, because if Reggie Bush is on, like I really like Darius Walker as a running back, but if Reggie Bush was on that 05 Notre Dame team, they probably beat Michigan State and USC, and they might have had a chance against Texas. That defense was awful though, so maybe not, but that feels like if we're talking about like biggest bang for our buck, because even like some of the like mid 2010s Notre Dame teams, I don't like USC had some real good players. Like maybe if you took when did Amon-Ra graduate? I can't. Was he on the team in 2018? I feel like if you put
just got a contract, so he's been through 4 years because he wasn't a first round pick.
I don't remember. Maybe I should look up his stats here, but I feel like, hold on, I'm just going to do this now because otherwise it's going to bug me. I feel like if you took Amon-Ra from the 2018 USC team and put him on that 2018 Notre Dame team, maybe they score a touchdown against Clemson in the playoff. Just one. Let's not get carried away here. They probably weren't beating that Clemson team if you took. Yeah, he played 2018. He played 11 games. He had 750 receiving yards. So he was better in 2019, but as a freshman, he was phenomenal that year. Yeah. I feel like the easy answer is Reggie Bush 05, so I'm gonna go off the beaten path a little bit, and I'll say Amon-Ra 2018.
Okay, good answer. I was a cop-out answer. I thought I threw myself on this, and I said Reggie Bush because I think that may have changed the course of college football history. If Bush is not on USC, again, I know they didn't win titles, but are they even making the title game to play against Texas and arguably the greatest national championship game that has ever happened? And my jackass fell asleep during that and missed it.
Listen, buddy, that's why West Coast time is the best time.
Yeah, so horrible. We're in the midst of basketball season, and I fell asleep and woke up and realized I missed such a phenomenal game. I have rewatched it since years later, but it's still not the same because I know the result. So then we'll fast forward to 2024, Ryan. Who is one player from this year's USC roster that you'd like to put on Notre Dame's roster?
Oh, that's a good question. I feel like the answer's probably got to be Zach Branch, because that's not an athlete that Notre Dame has on their roster. They got a good receiver room, and it should be better than it was last year, but they don't have a guy that you can just like throw a bubble screen to, who's then going to run past everyone for 85 yards and score.
And then his return ability too is off the charts. That game changer. So I went the opposite of you for this. I said what player or players I would like to see go from Notre Dame to USC, and I said Crosser Mills. We know Notre Dame, not Notre Dame. USC's problem is their D-line. If you put Crosser Mills on their D-line next to Bear Alexander, I think that might it won't fix it because you got to have depth, but it certainly improves your run game problem, and then creates some problem in the Big Ten this year. So I want to be opposite on you on that one.
I think that's a fair one.
So before we move into the second segment, where we're just going to talk a little bit about some of the other rivalries. Anything else you'd like to touch on with the USC Notre Dame rivalry?
I just think that it's a really stupid idea if you want to get rid of it, because the excuse being, well, we've poo-pooed enough tradition over the last 5 years, so why don't we poo-poo more, is just really dumb, because then that's just the further NFLization or whatever you want to call it of the college game, which is already stupid and I hate it, but it's a fantastic rivalry. It's not like the same like blood feud that like a Ohio State, Michigan, or an Alabama, Auburn is. No one's poisoning trees over this game or anything like that, but it's the kind of rivalry I like because it's intense when both teams are good, but it's not like this I mean, I guess everything on the internet is petty disrespect, but it's not like anytime, it's not freaking Ohio State and Michigan fans chirping each other over a video game trailer level petty. And I just don't.
It's a pretty special rivalry here.
That's
how low we go.
I don't have time for that. That's so childish, and y'all have better things to do with your lives. Please grow up. Like, you can hate each other without getting all poopy pants because Donovan Edwards stiff-armed a dude in a video game trailer. Like, come on now.
It wasn't nice stiff-arm, though.
Get a life. Why? Get a life.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great rivalry.
Only a gentleman's rivalry over here.
Yeah. Colin Cowherd, you're talking out your ass. I don't want rivalries to go away. This is part of the reason we're doing these episodes.
Yes. It's fun, man.
This is what makes the game fun. It's what makes it different. I don't want the same thing on Saturday that I'm going to watch on Sunday.
No.
I don't want that. We're already getting there with NIL, and it's fine. The players should make some money off of this. But we're already creeping towards NFL. We got a 12-team playoff now.
Yeah. And it's like
things alone that make this game special and make it different.
Yeah. And it's like Ohio State, Oregon this year is going to be compelling theater. I don't think anyone's sitting here saying, I don't want to watch that game. That sucks. But like,
yeah,
if you're going to tell me, would you rather watch Ohio State, Oregon, or watch Penn State, Ohio State? It's Penn State, Ohio State, man. Like, give me games where there's history.
Absolutely.
You have the narratives built into it. The James Franklin can't beat these guys, the yada, 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 all that stuff that you just like. It's cool, man, that we're getting these new helmet matchups, and maybe it'll build new rivalries down the road. And, people will be sitting in our shoes in 30 years talking about, man, do you remember that first Ohio State Oregon game? Man, that was a real slobber knocker. And look at where they are now. They hate each other's guts. Maybe that's the way it ends up being. But it's just, even if it's good teams playing each other, it's just like, you don't get riled up for it the same way. It's just, there's none of that scar tissue, those past heartbreaks that feel you. There's no, going into last October sitting there thinking, man, this Caleb Williams guy, he really clowned us last year. We got to get him back this year. You don't have that with some of these other matchups. I don't care about Notre Dame, Louisville. Like, who cares? Yeah. Is it going to be a good game? Probably. But I don't have like an emotional aversion to Louisville the way that I do USC.
And if you look at the NFL, if Lamar Jackson comes into Cincinnati and beats Joe Burrow and the Bengals, guess what? In another month, the Bengals are likely going to go walk into Baltimore and beat them. Now, again, this is going to change with the playoff, that these may happen more than once.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just special because it may not happen again, and how much it may impact your season if you lose the one game.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of leads us into the second segment. And we talked about my two questions, and I didn't even have to ask them, was, rivalries and what they mean to college football and fans. We pretty much hit that right on the head. It means a lot to save us the time of we're going over everything. And then we both kind of explained before how we feel about the expanded playoff will affect rivalries. And we'll tackle those questions again on Monday with our OSU guest. And hopefully, if some of these Michigan fans can get the stick out of their ass and get into the direct messages, and one of them please join us for this episode so we can get a perspective from both sides. Like,
slide into our DMs.
Yeah, that's what we want. We want something from both sides. That's what's going to make it fun. Otherwise, I might just ask another OSU person to come on, and we'll just have two OSU people talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, we're moving into the second segment now about the rest of these rivalries. The Big Ten, with the expansion of the conference now being at 18 teams, they went through, to some people's dismay, and made permanent rivalries that they're going to keep. They will be played every year. Mm-hmm. They decided to keep 11 of them. Ohio State and Michigan, Michigan State, Indiana, Purdue, Illinois, Northwestern, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, Nebraska, Maryland and Rutgers, which Ryan and I talked about pre-show. WTF on that one, but I guess you got to give them somebody to play. USC, UCLA, and then the 12th one that they added that is now protected is Oregon and Washington as the other newcomers.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So, Ryan, is there one team's name that you didn't hear called in that protected list?
Yes, we have our favorite team on this podcast, the Penn State Nittany Lions.
Yes, they were not called. They do not have a protected rivalry game. I can tell you right now, and it was in a response, and we'll talk about in a second, that one of the Penn State fans had mentioned about OSU fans not admitting that this is a rivalry game. Mm-hmm. Penn State, Ohio State, and you just said it. We'd rather watch than Ohio State, Oregon. It's just the game. It's something we've had for years, and there's been so many good back and forth games. And Ohio State has came out on top more often than not. But as a Big Ten fan, I have loved this game since I was a little kid, man. And anytime we've been able to draw a whiteout game at Penn State, it's a hell of an environment, one that I want to experience. I would love to be there when Ohio State does it, but at this point, I'd take any team going into the whiteout. Mm-hmm. It's a crazy environment. It makes it fun. Mm-hmm. And I personally am disappointed that I won't get that yearly after this year anymore. Yep. It's going to be every few years, and that sucks. Now, Penn State also has a rivalry game. They play for the land-grant trophy against Michigan State. That one was also not protected. Mm-hmm. And it's been relatively new. There's only a 28-game record there. It's 18-10, Penn State leading. But we know their true rivals Pitt. West Virginia is also one of them, but they're not in the Big Ten. Do you have any thoughts, Ryan, on maybe why any of these games weren't protected for Penn State?
Well, you just hit the nail on the head there. Is their biggest rivals aren't in their conference.
Yeah.
And you know, if you're in this period of conference expansion and you want to maximize your scheduling flexibility while also protecting games, the most important games that are on your member institution schedule, but you're saying, hey, we can only protect X number of these, someone's going to get left out in the cold. And if you're a program that's sitting there and saying, hey, I don't have a natural rival in this conference, then they're just, regardless of how good you are, they're just going to say, okay, well, then we're not going to muck around with this. That's my impression of it. I'm impressed at how much Penn State and West Virginia fans do not like each other. I did not realize how salty that rivalry is.
Dude, this has been fun following
it's awesome.
Fans on Twitter.
It's really fun. It's really fun. Because it's just like I got a soft spot for the rivalries where it's two teams that are like kind of up and down. It's not like Alabama, Auburn kind of sucks now, but they've been good. Where it's like one of the.
They'll
like
always have the kick six. They'll always
have the kick six. But it's these rivalries where it's like the two teams are good, but not so good that it's like annoying. Where you just don't like the team because it's like, I'm tired of seeing you winning. I'm tired of seeing you guys talking. This is just, it's just fun. Like, It's just pure petty disdain, and it's fantastic.
For me personally, it's a blast to watch fan bases talk smack to one another that isn't Ohio State, Michigan. It's really fun to see it from an outside perspective. Mm-hmm. And even this is not to the extent that the level of Ohio State to as far as pettiness, but it's been really fun. So I commented back to two of the Penn State guys who tend to be our more interactions, the Yinzer Lion and Will Gamble 15. And I think the Yinzer Lion gave the better answer. He said his speculation that Penn State just didn't want one, despite the fans asking for them to try to keep one. They just didn't want one. And I think goes to your point is because their biggest rival is outside. And if they're going to keep Pitt on the schedule every year or West Virginia on the schedule every year, then why do they need to have one? They can get the flexibility. If hell, James Franklin might be looking at it as if I can avoid Ohio State, Michigan more years than not, I might have a chance to get in the playoff and make some noise.
For sure.
So maybe it works to his benefit. I don't know. But as an Ohio State fan, Yinzer Lion, it is not all Ohio State fans who don't consider that a rivalry. I love that game. Even when you guys blocked our kick when Urban Meyer ran the field goal team out too late and caused me to throw a remote across the room. I still enjoy those games, even though it was a loss that I didn't want. But I wanted to shout out the go ahead.
Didn't they just announce that game's going to be a noon kickoff, Penn State and West Virginia?
It is.
And what a travesty. What a travesty.
But you know what? For week one, I guess I can live with it. The game I don't want to be big noon is Ohio State, Penn State. especially when this one's not going to be played next year. That effing game better be on CBS Sports at 8:00 or NBC Sports at 7:30.
If it's NBC, it's going to be prime time. If CBS is at 3:30.
Yeah, it has got to be nighttime. For Christ's sake, give Gary Danielson and Brad Nessler a night game on CBS that is laid out with Penn State.
Same person.
Yes, can you not make them call Indiana and Illinois constantly? Can you not make them go to every Northwestern home game to sit by the Mistake by the Lake and call those games?
Which, by the way, that Mistake by the Lake is looking very beautiful in the renderings that I've seen on the internet today.
Does look improved. It's going to look better than a high school stadium. Maybe not a D1 stadium, but
we're going to ignore those. We're going to ignore the ugly stands behind the benches and just focus on the end zone stands for the purpose of this conversation.
Yeah. Well, they can't put much stands on the one side. You'd be sitting in the water. So,
hey, man, do the McCovey Cove thing that they do with the Giants game. Just chill out there with your kayaks, and maybe when the wind starts blowing,
football.
Yeah, you get a punt out there when you're getting those 70-mile-an-hour crosswinds heading towards the lake, and maybe you'll catch one out there.
Yep. So I want to give a quick shout out to the Penn State fans who engage with us. Yinzer Lyon again. He mentioned Michigan State as the rivalry. He said the land-grant trophy. He also mentioned Ohio State, but again, Ohio State fans wouldn't admit this being one. Sean Clifford, there was no D, so it's Sean Clifford, said Michigan and Iowa as of late have been Penn State's rivalries. Fan of things 00 said our fans hate Ohio State and Iowa the most. And then Will Gamble 15, shout out Will, you're also constantly engaging with us. He says recently Iowa, but he also includes Ohio State in that. So again, I don't have much more further thoughts on the Penn State thing. I just want to get your thoughts on, them not being included with a protected rivalry, and I think we hit that pretty good. So kind of the last piece I think is fun is I kind of want to just give a brief little piece on all the rivalry games and that we mentioned, the protected. We're not going through all of them. Good Lord, we'll be here all night. And we'll keep it brief so that we're not keeping you guys here for an hour and a half.
I hope you guys are ready for a 3-hour episode while Clinton goes through every rivalry game that's ever been played in the history of Big Ten athletics.
Yes.
Northwestern versus the Chicago School of the Mines here.
Yeah. So speaking of Northwestern, Illinois and Northwestern play for the Land of Lincoln Trophy. Their first meeting was in 1892, in which they tied. And then their most recent meeting was Northwestern 45-43. The fun fact I read about that is the trophy was originally a tomahawk, and then it got switched to the Land of Lincoln Trophy in 2009. Illinois leads the overall series. This is a very competitive one here, 57-55-5. So very competitive little rivalry there. Those are ones we like to see. Northwestern did not have any other ones, so let's dive into one who's got two. Purdue, Illinois, they play for the Purdue Cannon. First time they played, 1890. Holy cow. 62-0 Purdue Boilermakers. 2023, 44-19 Purdue Boilermakers. The overall record is 48-45-6. So again, very competitive. Indiana and Purdue play for the Old Oaken Bucket, which was first awarded. Yes. First awarded in 1925, but the first meeting was in 1891. Purdue won that 60-0. I don't know why Purdue had offenses that could drop 60 in the 1900s, but hot damn, Ryan Walters, let's see what you got in 2024.
Bro, how impressive is it to score 60 points in 1891? They didn't even invent the forward pass until like 1920 or something like that.
I don't know. Was Indiana's team blind at this point? I don't know.
Listen, man, have you ever seen the thing, not to derail the conversation here, but it was like, I don't remember if it was on TikTok or on Instagram or it was like a Twitter thread, but it was talking about like making fun of every college football program and them talking about how they have the most wins in college football history. Well, I mean, it's Michigan now, but it's like, look at some of these clown college teams that some of these programs have played. And in some cases, they actually played a clown college. Or like there was like a Notre Dame game. It was like South Bend area high schools or something like that. Or like there was like a one against like Oregon played like Eugene YMCA or something. I'm like, how are these games counting?
Yes, I don't know.
Anyway, so maybe that old Indiana team was actually perhaps maybe Indiana University School of the Blind at the time or something like that.
It may have been. Purdue leads the overall series 77-42 and 6 ties. A fun fact about this game, it had been played every single year from 1920 through 2019. And as it did with many things, COVID ruined it because the game got canceled. So F you, COVID. Thanks a lot for ruining that streak.
You absolutely ruined it.
Then we have the Minnesota games. We got Wisconsin, Minnesota. This is a very prominent one. Paul Bunyan's Axe. First meeting, again, 63-0. Like, holy cow. Last meeting was 28-14 last year. Badgers lead the overall series. It's as closer than you think. 63-62 and 8. Wow. So they only have one. Another fun fact, before this trophy was an axe, they played for a slab of bacon.
Wait.
How about that?
Was it like a trophy that looked like a slab of bacon, or was it actually like a real slab of bacon that they could then cook up and eat themselves?
I wanted so bad for it to be a real slab of bacon. It looks like this cheap-ass piece of wood has something written on it. It doesn't even look like a slab of bacon. They just called it a slab of bacon. Damn. You have to Google it later and look at it. It wasn't that impressive. Minnesota, Iowa play for the Floyd of Rosedale, another prominent one we get every year. First meeting back in 1891, Minnesota 42-4. Last year, Minnesota won 12-10. I believe that was the one that we had the Cooper DeJean, right? That cost Iowa that game.
You are correct.
Here's a little fun gag. Over 100 years later, and Iowa still can't score. And y'all thought we were just joking when we said they run an offense from 100 years ago. They only put up 4 points over 100 years ago. So Iowa, let's change things a little bit.
Man, Iowa, Wisconsin. You're right. This slab of bacon, it's like a cutting board that they just wrote bacon on.
Yes.
And there's an M in the middle. It looks like the Gmail logo. All right, y'all. I'm gonna put this up on Twitter here for y'all to see. This is remarkable.
It's pretty pathetic. Wow. Iowa, Wisconsin, Heartland Trophy. Badgers took the first meeting in 1894, 44-0. Iowa 15-6 again with the 100-year-old offense. And most recently, Badgers lead the overall series 49-46-2. I, for some reason, did not fill out the rest of this, but Iowa and Nebraska play for the Heroes Trophy. And fun one for this year, guys. It's going to be under the lights at Kinnick Stadium this year.
That's a good decision.
A phenomenal game. Great job scheduling that. It's going to be good. Real good.
Yes.
Maryland Rutgers, the banger that we talked about 19 times. It's 12-7 to Maryland. I don't even give a crap about the rest of that one. UCLA and USC play for the Victory Bell. USC leads overall 48-32-7. The fun fact there is that Victory Bell weighs 295 pounds.
It's a heavy
the size of a defensive lineman.
Can we, like, the coolest thing about the USC UCLA rivalry is them both wearing their home jerseys.
Absolutely.
That's the best jersey matchup of the season, bar none. Yep. It's just aesthetically beautiful.
The bell is on wheels. And then whoever wins,
I'd hope so. It's 300 pounds.
They paint it. The thing that supports it, that's on the wheels. They paint the frame, the team's color. Whoever wins it.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That's dope.
Yep. Oregon, Washington, the 12th protected. It's known as the Border War. Washington actually leads that series overall, 63-48-5. And then we saw what happened most recently last year's Washington took 2 from
times two.
Yes. And then the last 2, Ohio State, Michigan, y'all are going to have to wait for Monday. Hopefully we have a really good episode with you there. And hopefully everything goes well with our OSU guests, and hopefully we can get another one on there as well. But the last protected that I wanted to say for today's episode, because the memory I typed in here was so glorious for me. Michigan State play for Paul Bunyan's Trophy.
I know where you're going with this one.
The first meeting was in 1898 with a Michigan win 39-0. Fast forward to 2023, they won 49-0. Hey, it's a common theme. Michigan State can't score either. Michigan leads the overall series by a ton, 73-38-5.
Whoa.
The fun note for this was this did not become a Big Ten conference game until 1953.
Oh, wow.
And prior to 1958, 44 of the 50 games were all played on Michigan's home field. They didn't even go to Michigan State to play it.
That's pretty impressive, right? Textbook definition of little brothers. We're not even going to come to your house.
Yeah. And I think there was something, the reason this didn't become a Big Ten game was Michigan was actually fighting to keep Michigan State not allowing them to be in the Big Ten.
Oh, wow. Michigan trying to keep people out of the Big Ten. That sounds familiar. That's why Notre Dame isn't in the Big Ten, you jackwagons.
Yeah, I read that today.
You shut your mouths about join a conference or get bent. You know what? They tried to join a conference and Fielding Yost said no thanks. So guess what? We're going to do our own thing now. Bye-bye.
Yep. And so the last thing I wanted to end this with was the most memorable moment of all Michigan State. Yep. 2015 punter. You're right. I'm going to call him out. Punter Blake O'Neill. Lost control of the ball.
Poor guy's probably working as a line. He's working as a bank teller right now, catching strays on this podcast.
He fumbles or he loses control of the ball on the UM38. They were in Michigan State territory when they snapped. Jalen Watts Jackson recovers the ball, and he's off to the races, folks. The 20, the 15, the 10, the 5. Touchdown. Michigan loses. But the best part of this was the meme that came out of it. Was the poor gentleman who was stuck on ESPN on repeat, and he may have been the first big meme that ever hit the internet, was the hands on his head and his mouth wide open in complete and utter disbelief at what had just unfolded in front of him when all they had to do was execute a punt.
The surrender cobra.
And I think both teams... I think one was undefeated and the other one only had one loss. So this was a very meaningful game. I was in my cousin's house for this, and
wasn't that the year Michigan State beat Ohio State?
Ryan, we don't need to remind me. I'm having a glorious moment here. Can you just let me have it? Okay.
Sorry,
I'm shitting on Michigan. Let me have it. Okay. Yes, that was the year. What was his name? Connor Cook, dickhead.
Easy there.
Didn't even play. It was the backup that beat Ohio State in Ohio Stadium in a monsoon, and Urban Meyer didn't run Zeke enough. Yes, that is the year. Anyways, back to my fun piece.
Clinton's going back into fantasy land over here.
Yeah.
Hey, do you remember what happened to that guy Jalen Watts Jackson? I don't remember.
He broke his leg.
It was like, I don't remember.
In the end zone.
I don't remember if it was a fractured femur or a dislocated hip, but if you're if you watch the ESPN feed, that's just crowd noise. You can hear him screaming when they're dogpiling on him. It's terrifying.
Absolutely. Yes. Cause he breaks as he goes into falls into the end zone, and then all of his buddies just dive on him because he scored. This poor dude gets the coolest moment of his life, and he snaps his freaking leg.
Yeah.
You can't see his face.
No.
But you can see his body language change when the injury happens. He just goes limp.
He's trying to push people off. He's trying to push people off of him, and people keep jumping on top of him.
Yes. And this poor kid is at the bottom of the pile of misery. But Jalen, you made one heck of a memory for all Ohio State fans that year. And then you guys only had to come into Columbus and ruin that. I was sitting in Bronies at Athens when that game happened. I think I'd said the F word more times during that game than Leah's heard in the entire 10 years we've been together. I don't think I've ever cussed Urban Meyer so much either. But, yes, congratulations, Spartans. You kicked it. Your kicker ran down the field with his fun little dance, and it was over. Thanks a lot. Anyways, that was the rivalries that we got, all the protected ones. We're coming at you Monday night for the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry. It's going to be a great show. I look forward to talking about it. I am not going to sit and crap on Michigan for an hour plus. I'm going to be the biggest shit disturber. I'm going to be the biggest shit disturber. It's going to be fantastic. Well, I do want you, Ryan. I do want you, though. Come up with some as a bystander or someone just watching the game. Maybe memories that you have that have been fun or enjoyable to watch, because there's been some great clashes in those games. And I'm going to ask you about the Harbaugh saying he was this short. We're going to talk about that on Monday and get your opinion as an outsider there, and with JT Barrett in that double OT game.
Spoiler alert: he was short.
He was not short.
Look at the camera angles, folks. And again, we'll talk more about it. I have a nice little thought about that, and I think it could have went either way. But that pretty much wraps up everything I had for this rivalry show. Ryan, do you have anything else?
No, brother, man, that is it. That was
all right, guys.
That was partially cathartic and partially, I can't believe you made me relive those memories.
Well, we got to go through tough times. I'm going to have to relive them on my birthday. So I think you could manage. But that was a great episode, and I really enjoyed getting your insight and the fans that interacted with us on Twitter. Guys, remember, you can hit us up, ITP CFB on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram, or X, as they call it. And
no one calls us that.
Yeah, shoot us direct messages, shoot us, tag us, whatever. Don't actually shoot us. Shoot us a tweet. And we'd love to engage with you guys. We really do. We really enjoy it. That's what makes this fun.
Listen, man, if you DM me at the right time on like a Wednesday afternoon, I might actually ask you to shoot me.
Yes. Don't DM him during Dallas Stars games. The man does not respond to anything.
Hell in a
handbasket. And watching the games the whole time.
Oh, I almost had a brain aneurysm last night watching that. Everyone say a prayer for Chris Tanev's ankle, because if his fibula is fractured, then it's going to be a very short next couple of days for your boy here.
Yeah. So Ryan, you can take us home the rest of the way.
Or if you're an Oilers fan, then you could just shut your mouth, because I don't want to hear from you. Everyone, thanks for joining us tonight. Have a great weekend, and we will see y'all on Monday for some more fun talk about rivalries.